Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in this tiny house on wheels and living a more intentional life. Today is slightly a different topic, but it's kind of in my mind because I just spent a weekend plus with family members for a family wedding, and I had visitors, things like that. And after that experience, while it was awesome, and I love my family, and I really loved the event, the wedding, it was awesome, and a ton of fun. By the end of the 4 days, I was definitely done. And peopled out is the way that I describe it. So today I thought I would talk about what it's like to be an introvert in an extroverted world. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is, oh, there's Sophie. Hi, kitty. You stay on the deck. So I guess the first question that needs answering is, what exactly is an introvert? I think a lot of people think they know what an introvert is, a lot of people who aren't introverts. And I would love for some comments down below if you're an introvert, whether you think I'm right or not. But I think a lot of people think that an introvert is somebody who is antisocial, somebody who sorry, somebody walked by. Somebody who is antisocial, somebody who is awkward in social settings, who doesn't make friends easily, and is extremely shy. And while those can be traits that introverts have, they are also traits that extroverts have. Those are totally different than introvertedness is. The way I describe an introvert, and myself in general, is an introvert is somebody who is drained by social interaction. While they like, get back up here, up you go, come on, get your little furry butt up there. While they like people and they can be very comfortable in social settings, parties, social events, business events, things like that, even workplace situations, they are drained after them, and then they need a certain amount, sometimes a significant amount of alone time in order to recharge. Whereas an extrovert gets their energy from being around a lot of people, a lot of activity, a lot of energy that actually charges them up. And if they spend a lot of time alone, they feel drained, and they're not happy. So it's sort of it's the opposite, the two. So an introvert can function very well if they're not a shy introvert, if they're not an introvert that has social anxiety and other challenges that they have to work with. After those periods of time, they have to know that there's an end to those periods of time, and then they need time to recharge, and that is really important. And so the way I describe it is, actually this isn't my idea, this is my son Keaton's idea. He's the one who came up with the concept for us of a social battery. So Keaton describes his social battery as probably a C size. And my youngest child, Jamie, their social battery is probably a AAA, or maybe even a little watch battery. They are a shy person by nature, and they're introverted. My social battery, I'd say, is probably a D size, if they still make those D size batteries. So I am what I consider an outgoing introvert. I've had a lot of people explain to me that that's not a thing, which I find a little annoying and offensive, that you should be explaining to somebody else how they feel. But yes, there is such a thing as an outgoing introvert. I'm one of them. I really enjoy people. If I'm standing in line for a bank machine or at the grocery store and it's taking a while, I will chat to the person beside me. I have no problem in interactions at work, and like this weekend at the wedding, with all of these people, some of which I didn't know. So that's not a problem for me. However, now that that's over, and now that all the family is gone, I need time to recharge. And after the intensity of the wedding event, I went down early so I could help my sister-in-law. There was a lot of activity leading up to, and then the wedding itself, and then on the Sunday, cleaning up and things like that. I couldn't wait to get in my van and drive the 3 hours home to Calgary. Not because I don't love these people and really enjoy their company. I do, but just because by that Sunday, my social battery was at 0. And then I needed that time alone in the van on the drive home. I did have to work this week, but today's Canada Day. Happy Canada Day. Happy Canada Day to all my Canadians out there, and happy 4th of July coming up for my American friends. So I was quite exhausted, and now that it's Friday and it's a day off, I'm just done. I just don't want to be around people. I just want to be by myself. It's not that I don't want to be, I'm going to go out for a walk and things like that, and there will be people around. I just don't want to have to interact with them because I am drained. And the time alone is going to recharge my social battery, which is different than somebody who's an extrovert who would feel totally energized after all that activity. They might be tired, but they will be energized. They won't be drained like an introvert is. So the way I describe it, the way my son described it to me, and I think is spot on, is that introverts have social batteries of different sizes, and once those are drained, they need time alone without social interactions to recharge, and that can take a substantial while. Usually for me it only takes a day or two, but because of how intense the last period was, the period leading up to and during the wedding and after was, I actually needed longer, and I think a week is probably about right, of quiet evenings and now a really quiet long weekend. I read a book years ago written by a psychologist who is an introvert. And I think it was called Quiet, An Introvert's Guide to an Extroverted World. And I will put it on the screen for you. I can't remember the doctor's name. She said something in there that I really resonated with. And that was, well, she said several things that really made sense to me. And one of them was that we live in a very extroverted world. And that is different than it was, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago. We used to live in a world where the strong silent type was considered the epitome, right? Like the John Waynes and the people that they didn't say a lot, but when they did say something, people listened, right? Because they didn't talk all the time. I think we used to live in a society where character was valued. Where, like I say, that quiet person who didn't say a lot was valued. And now, because of the way the world is, maybe it's social media, maybe it's the internet, maybe it's just a natural progression of cycle, but we now live in a culture of personality. And so now the person who says the most, is the most out there, is the most active, is the most visible, is always doing something, and is maybe more showy, and certainly more social, is considered the epitome. And that's a big switch. So for those of us who aren't that, and I know what some of you are thinking, you're thinking, Adelina, you got a YouTube channel, but that's just me on YouTube. I'm just sitting here on my front step, drinking my cold coffee, talking to a camera. So that's different. But for those of us who are introverts, we sometimes feel at a disadvantage. And let me explain what I mean by that. How many of us growing up in school were told we needed to come out of our shell? We were forced to go up to the front of the room and read something out loud or do a problem on the blackboard. How many of you guys out there, fellow introverts, when we were told that we had to do a group project, and it still happens even professionally, just slightly died inside because you just hated that dynamic. And how many of you and me were made to feel like somehow being introverted was a flaw that needed to be fixed, right? I would guess that if you're an introvert, virtually all of us have felt that, have experienced that. I still feel that when I'm in a work situation and I have to do a team project. I can do it. I'm a team player, no worries. But I really do not like it. I like to work alone. This is why being a teleworker, working from home, suits me so well. The type of work that I do suits me so well because it's an individual effort as part of a greater team. So I'm contributing to the team, but I'm doing it individually. And I really like that. I really despise working in groups with group projects. And growing up, I was made to feel like I was defective, that somehow I needed to learn to be more extroverted. I needed to learn to not be so introverted. And it was very frustrating to me, especially since I'm dyslexic as well. And so I already had that learning challenge so going up in front of the room to write something on the board was horrifying for me because of my dyslexia and my introvertedness. So I had the double shot there. The culture, our society's culture has really changed. We've moved from being a culture that prized character and quietness and being thoughtful about what you said, thinking about it before you said it, to a culture of personality where the loudest, most outrageous and out there person gets the most attention and is seen as the most valuable. And that can be a real challenge. One of the things I wish I had learned earlier was that if you're an introvert, you don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. You're perfectly made. And if you're an extrovert, you don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. You're perfectly made. If I had been stronger, that's not the right word, but more confident and really come to the realizations that I have now when my kids were little, I think I would have been able to be a much better advocate for them in school. I would have been able to educate the teachers who didn't understand what an introvert was, so that they could approach my children in a way that would connect with them and would help them. Because if we live in an extroverted world, if we live in a world where personality is valued more over character, an introvert has to function. And I've learned to function, and so have my kids, and so have all of you who are introverts out there. We've learned how to function in this world. We've learned that we need to minimize or at least have an end to those social interactions that drain us. We've learned that we need to take the time after to recharge, and we've learned to tell people, no, that I can't do that. I just can't, right? We've learned to try and educate our friends and our family that we're not being antisocial. The fact is, we just can't do it. We don't want to, but not because we don't like them. We just don't have it in us, and so, and that has been really life-changing for me. And I wish I had that skill when my children were little, so I could have helped them and helped their teachers. I could have made them really believe that their introvertedness was not a flaw, was not a defect, was not something that they needed to fix. I never made them feel that way, but society did, the school system did, just by nature, because we were moving into that culture of personality, and every year that goes by, it becomes even more and more. So if you don't believe me, just look at social media and look at the world around you. And even look at the people in your company where you work who are considered valuable and who get the employee awards and things like that. If you're lucky, you work for a company that values the work you do and not the personality that you are. But far too often we work at places where the people that are the most out there, the most vocal, the most have the biggest characters are the ones that are valued, are the ones that are seen as the epitome of what an employee should be. So I think that it's important that you understand that if you haven't thought of it yet, but that we tell our children and we educate the people around you that being an introvert is not a defect. There is no flaw. There is no fix needed. The world needs both introverts and extroverts. An introvert can lead a team. I certainly have. An introvert can be in front of a bunch of people talking. Just look at Steve Jobs. There's a lot of famous people who were introverts who have been on stage. But the big difference is that those people then need downtime. So we need to value both, and you need to value yourself. Personally, I think being an introvert is kind of a superpower. And let me explain that. Because introverts thrive being alone, thrive with their own company, and really do not need to have a lot of people around them. We actually do really well in times of hardship and crisis. In general, obviously, if you have other challenges that you're working through, that will affect what I'm saying. But in general, an introvert does really well. And let's just take the last few years as an example. I have a lot of coworkers, and a good number of them that do the job that we do are introverts by nature. I think that the job sort of attracts it. But there are a couple that are extroverts, and I certainly have some friends that are extroverts. And during the lockdowns, during all of the challenges, during Coronageddon, they really struggled. Working from home was a huge struggle for them. Not being able to be out and at restaurants and see people was a real struggle for them. Not being able to work collaboratively in the office, in person, with their coworkers really challenged them, and they really struggled. And the struggle was real for them, because for them, they need that. That's for them. That's like air. They really do need that. Us introverts, we were fine. Superpower, right? No problem. Work from home, no problem. Get to work from home permanently, yay. Not have to go out into social settings. I'm good with that. In general, I just like being one-on-one with people anyways. I can certainly function in a bigger group, but and enjoy it, but I just prefer to have like a one-on-one coffee or a dinner with a friend, go for a walk with a friend anyways. So not being able to see a bunch of people, not being able to go into the office, not being able to be out in crowds, not a problem. In times where there are challenges, introverts kind of thrive, right? We're able to really go internal and deep and figure things out. Not that an extrovert can't, but I'm talking about introverts here. And we really don't need other people around to solve problems, make decisions, and thrive. So that's why I think being an introvert is kind of a superpower. That's how I choose to frame it. That's how I frame it to my kids, and to all of you who are introverts. That's how I want you to frame it. This is your superpower. It has served you well during the pandemic. Sophie is getting nothing but white fur on the back of my black dress. I just know it. Anyways, sorry. It's really important that you see yourself in that way, and admire your friends and your family that are extroverts. I do. I think that when we choose our friends, we always choose people that we would like to be a little bit more like, and that's why I like having introverts around me to some extent, because I admire that. I admire the fact that they are perfectly, if you plop them in the middle of a crowd of people that they didn't know, they would thrive. I have an old boss, Robert, who's like that. So I just wanted to share that. It was really obvious to me after the intensity of the family event that I had been at, how drained I was and how much I needed to recharge. I hoped that maybe sharing my experience would resonate with some of you who are introverts, would help some of you who are extroverts who have introverted family and friends. It's not that they don't like you. It's not that they don't want to do all the stuff with you. It's just that they can't sometimes. And if they want to leave the party after a few hours, it's not that they're being antisocial. They just need time to recharge, and their social battery is drained. So hopefully that will help you understand them. Guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, stay away from the mosquitoes and be kind. The world needs a lot more kindness nowadays. I love you, and I'll see you next Sunday.